Right now, a day of celebration and remembrance from D.C. to Madison. A look at some of today's ceremonies across the country.
And being developed right here in Madison, the new tool being used by doctors to help detect breast cancer.
Plus, the green and gold returning home after a season-ending loss in San Francisco. We'll hear from the players and coaches coming up.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 10.
And thanks for joining us tonight on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Activists are remembering the man whose impact lives on.
This marks the 35th Madison and Dane County King holiday observance at the Overture Center. Our Madeline O'Neill was there speaking with a civil rights activist who is sharing her story with the hopes of creating a better tomorrow.
Charlotte and Eric, Joyce Ann Ladner is tonight's keynote speaker. In the 60s, she helped organize lunch counter sit-ins and voter registration campaigns in Mississippi. She was even on stage for the iconic Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. Now Ladner is hoping to use the civil rights movement as a springboard to talk about issues that persist today.
He made a big change, and he made everything possible for us today.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
If he didn't do this, we probably wouldn't be here right now.
And all the others who laid the groundwork for the civil rights movement.
Legacies are built, brick by brick, and he had a lot of bricks.
We can learn more about what they went through and the things they did.
These Madison area students have the chance to hear directly from Joyce Ladner, who was on the front lines of many major civil rights protests in the 60s.
The older I get, the more I see that young people especially want you to talk about it.
There's a lot to talk about. To name just a few bullet points, as a part of her activism in Mississippi, Ladner was expelled from college for organizing a civil rights protest and jailed for trying to integrate a church. Along the way, she also met King several times.
He was very ordinary, friendly, warm, totally unpretentious, and he gave us hope.
Ladner still carries that hope for a better future.
The civil rights issues today are the same in some ways as they were then.
Dr. King's beloved community.
As part of observing this holiday, now more than 50 years after King's death, Ladner wants to bring light to issues, including voter rights, police brutality, and wealth disparity.
There's still a lot of stuff to be done, but it's good to enjoy the milestone that we made and how far we've come from how it was back in the day.
Seeing all who are gathered to honor him, Ladner believes King's legacy will be carried forward in good hands.
It gives me a tremendous amount of hope. I'm just excited about that there's another generation that has picked up the gauntlet.
Ladner is also a sociologist and published author of the book Tomorrow's Tomorrow, The Black Woman. Community leaders were there tonight as well, including Madison's mayor and lieutenant governor.
Thank you very much, Maddie.
The tradition of celebrating Dr. King's life and legacy at the Capitol continued today. According to organizers, this is the longest-running state celebration of its kind in the country, featuring musical performances and a keynote speaker. This was the 40th year for this program, which is free and open to the public.
Democratic presidential contenders celebrated the holiday in South Carolina today. The field's major contenders linked arms with each other, and civil rights leaders in a crowd of thousands marching to the South Carolina State House for the annual King Day at the Dome rally. An estimated 2,500 people were at that rally. Meanwhile, President Trump and Vice President Pence honored Martin Luther King Jr. Day by visiting the Civil Rights Leaders Memorial in the nation's capital. The two were greeted by a mix of cheers and boos from other visitors at the memorial. They spent a few moments standing in silence in front of several wreaths and flowers before leaving.
The U.S. Navy today says it will be naming its next aircraft carrier for an African-American soldier who leapt into combat during the attack at Pearl Harbor, the USS Doris Miller. This is the first time that a carrier has been named for an African-American and the first time for an enlisted sailor. Dory Miller was a mess attendant aboard the USS West Virginia back in 1941. During the attack, he went to the deck and carried wounded sailors, including the captain, to safety, and later fired at enemy planes from an anti-aircraft gun, which he had never been taught to shoot. In 1942, he became the first African-American to be presented with the Navy Cross, one of the Navy's highest honors.
Turning to weather now, the next few days are looking to stay pretty quiet before another chance for snow later this week. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti is here now with our first alert forecast. Gary?
We have to get past the cold night tonight. Temperatures have been dropping off pretty quickly, but with light winds, there's not much of a wind chill to speak of. And Doppler track shows there's very little in the way of precipitation, just some snow showers in parts of Indiana moving away from us. This morning, low temperatures dropped into the single digits above and below zero. Here in Madison, we actually dropped to 10 this morning. 25 was the high temperature for today, but we're now at our low for the day of 8 as temperatures continue to fall a little bit, already down to 0 in Wautoma. And by tomorrow morning, look for temperatures to be in the middle single digits above 0. Look for sunny skies tomorrow. Our high temperature is still on the cold side at 24, but we'll start warming up on Wednesday, and that'll lead to a chance of snow later in the week. I'll have more details on weather in a few minutes.
Gary, thanks. The Dane County Sheriff's Office reaching out to the public again today, asking for help finding the person responsible for the death of Nicholas Day. He was found dead along a rural road in Blue Mounds last week. Originally, investigators thought he'd been hit by a car while jogging on County Highway JG, but it has since evolved into a murder investigation. Deputies want to speak with anyone who knew Day and may have information about his personal or professional life. You can call the Sheriff's Office tip line. We also have a number on channel3000.com.
And in Madison, police still do not have any suspects identified in this weekend's homicide at an apartment complex on McKenna Boulevard. Saturday afternoon, 20-year-old Antonio Stidham of Chicago was shot and killed. Police believe it was a targeted attack. Rock County fire departments are taking a new approach to handling calls, one they say could shave minutes off response times. They're using new technology called automatic vehicle locator. It uses the GPS in the fire engines and ambulances to find out who is closest to the call and dispatches those units to the scene. The town of Beloit, city of Beloit, Janesville, and the city and towns of Milton have all signed on to collaborate.
We are sharing resources, and the resources are being, it's equipment, it's manpower, it's everything that we need, and this way it's a better use of tax dollars.
The departments are also looking to collaborate with other fire departments in Rock County, Northern Illinois, to expand the use of the new technology.
Henry Violet Zoo is starting a fundraiser for wildlife recovery efforts down in Australia as wildfires continue to burn. They've destroyed habitats and killed more than 1 billion animals. The zoo has set up donation boxes at the gift shop and restaurant, or you can donate online from now until the end of February. Money will go directly to WIRES, Australia's largest wildlife rescue organization, and Zoos Victoria, a leading conservation organization. Governor Tony Evers is taking new steps to crack down on vaping. He wants to help combat the use of e-cigarettes among children and is confident at least part of the proposal will pass in the legislature.
Vaping is something that has, taken some lives in this country, and we want to make sure that we have all the pieces in place to make sure that we're taking care of it, making sure it's regulated in a fair and effective way.
Governor says he's calling on the legislature to pass a series of bills that would include banning vaping products on K through 12 campuses. He also wants to expand the definition of public health emergencies. The governor's suggestions don't touch flavor bans, which have been a topic across the country.
President Trump is on his way to Davos tonight on the eve of his Senate impeachment trial, which will start at noon tomorrow. This evening, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell released his proposed trial rules. Each side would get 24 hours over 2 days to make their opening statements. The condensed calendar means senators could be sitting through 12-hour sessions. It also does not admit House evidence without a vote and pushes off any votes on witnesses until later in the trial.
Wisconsin U.S. senators taking different approaches to the trial. Last week, Republican Senator Ron Johnson was campaigning for the president, speaking at that rally in Milwaukee, praising what the president has done in office and calling for 4 more years. Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin told us today she takes the responsibility very seriously and will put country before party during the trial. She has also said she wants to include witnesses in that trial. It's expected to start at noon tomorrow. First order of business to debate and vote on the rules of the trial. CBS News will have a special report. Be sure to start with News 3 Now for the latest developments and local reaction as well. And still ahead tonight, there are only 60 more days until the official start to spring. Gary Canalti will have his full forecast for the week ahead.
But first, a new piece of technology being developed right here in Madison is changing the way doctors treat breast cancer. That story's up next. American Red Cross has an urgent need for blood and platelet donations, especially those with types O negative and O positive. Winter is a tough time to collect blood, as weather and illness can decrease the amount of donations. A new technology developed by UW-Madison professors is changing the way surgeons see breast cancer tumors that they are removing.
Amanda Quintana shows us how Madison hospitals are leading the way, making for a more precise cancer removal.
Trying to find your way home or just where you parked your car in this day and age, that's pretty easy.
Starting route to home.
But finding a tumor?
When I first met this engineering team, I said, Google can see my driveway. Why can't I see the cancer?
For the last 70 years, when doctors biopsy a breast cancer tumor, they insert a little clip at the center. But when it comes time to remove the tumor, surgeons can't see where that clip is.
It's not findable. It's not targetable.
So right before surgery, a radiologist has to mark that area for the surgeon with a wire.
And it literally is a piece of wire that highlights and targets the lesion and then pokes out the skin. And then the surgeon uses that wire to get to the cancer, like a lollipop on a stick.
That pain, leaving wires sticking out, an additional procedure in an already stressful day.
The patients on the morning of surgery haven't eaten, they're anxious. A lot of them faint when they go get the wires placed.
But why can't that clip that's already in there just tell doctors where it is? That question pushed Dr. Lee Wilkie, along with UW-Madison professors of radiology and engineering, to come up with Lucent Medical's Smart Clip.
It's a GPS, but it's a GPS that's not turned on until you lay on the operative table.
And I'm right exactly over where that clip is.
At SSM Health St. Mary's Hospital, one of Dr. Wilkie's students got to be the first in the world to use the new device in surgery.
So the nice thing about this is I can say within a few millimeters exactly where this breast cancer is and exactly where the clip is. And that's really important because then we're not taking out too much tissue, but we're taking out the right amount of tissue.
Dr. Dana Hinkle says now, instead of having to guess or question how far in the wire is, the Smart Clip shows her.
It has these concentric circles, which are, centimeters. So I can actually plan and map out how much tissue I want to take out.
The revolutionary piece of this technology is in the mattress, essentially turning the Smart Clip's GPS on when it's in between the surgical knife and the pad.
So I can see in real time 3 dimensions, an XYZ coordinate to the lesion between these 2 points.
Innovation that could be used to see other cancers better too.
So there I'm about 2 centimeters.
For now, the Smart Clip is streamlining the breast cancer removal process, placed weeks or months ahead of time, cutting out an additional uncomfortable procedure and the need for a radiologist right before surgery.
You can arrive hopefully a little bit later and not have to be up at the crack of dawn. And more importantly, it's just, you're not having a wire or a needle coming out of the breast.
Giving surgeons clear directions to the tumor to get it out the first time.
It's MapQuest for the clip. I know exactly how to get to it.
Amanda Quintana, News 3 Now.
The Smart Clip is being used in a handful of hospitals now, but plans to be in 15 hospital systems by the end of the month.
Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti joins us now, and we've got some nice days ahead of us.
Yeah, tomorrow should be quiet but cold, and then Wednesday will be a little milder. We'll see some snow chances toward the end of the week. Let's start out by taking a look at 3 things you need to know in the forecast. Cold day tomorrow, high temperatures mid-20s, just slightly below average for this time of year, but will turn breezy and milder on Wednesday as temperatures get back up into the lower 30s. That temperature rise will actually start tomorrow night with readings dropping into the teens in the evening and then those temperatures rising to the 20s overnight. And then some light snow is likely for Thursday and Friday, but shouldn't amount to too much. The Future Track computer models show from late Wednesday night through the day on Friday, maybe a couple of inches through southern Wisconsin. It's pretty much, most of the computer models are pretty much in agreement that that's going to be the case. High temperatures, though, they are expected to be above normal after tomorrow. In fact, the average high temperature starts climbing from 26 to 27 10 days out, but you can see the high temperatures in the 30s, low to mid 30s, all the way through the middle of next week, and maybe even beyond that, because the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center through the early part of February calling for a 60 to 70% chance of above normal temperatures across Wisconsin, just a slightly elevated chance of above normal precipitation. But that just goes along with climate change. Madison winters have been warming steadily since 1970. Temperatures now for the winter average 4.6 degrees warmer than they did back 40 years ago. And so far this winter for December and the first part of January up to today, the 20th, temperatures have been about 7 degrees above average. So this so far is a pretty mild winter. Live view from the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison. Skies have been clear. There have been just a few patchy clouds from time to time. High temperature 25, but the low temperature of 8 is actually the current temperature. We may drop another degree or two before midnight. Skies are clear. The air relatively light, so very little in the way of wind chill. But temperatures are in the single digits through most of Wisconsin, and even below zero out to the west of us. But by tomorrow night, those temperatures will be climbing as upper level winds right now from the north and northwest shift to a more southwesterly direction. Notice this bulge in the jet stream here. The next weather system going to move near the U.S.-Canadian border and actually bring in milder Pacific air out ahead of it. High pressure is located just out to the west, and notice to the west of that high pressure system, those winds shift to a more southerly direction. So as the high moves off to the east, these temperatures that are in the single digits above and below zero climb into the 30s on the other side of a stationary front that eventually will turn into a warm front. So you can see on future track, the high moving off to the east tomorrow, winds becoming southerly already by tomorrow afternoon, but that temperature rise starts in earnest tomorrow night, and then look for some light snow to arrive on Wednesday afternoon, more likely Wednesday night into Thursday, and again, some minor snow accumulations are possible. So our forecast overnight calls for partly cloudy skies, cold, low temperature dropping to 4, but with light and variable winds, shouldn't be much of a wind chill. For tomorrow, look for a mostly sunny day, but continued cold with a high temperature of 24. As we check out future track, those temperatures climbing into the 20s tomorrow after that low temperature in the single digits. Look for temperatures to start rising again tomorrow night as clouds move in, and then perhaps some light snow late in the day on Wednesday with high temperatures right around the freezing mark. 7 to 10 day forecast, those temperatures back in the mid 30s for the end of the week. There'll be snow chances from Wednesday night into Thursday and Friday, maybe mixed with a little rain south of Madison on both those days. Saturday, just a few flurries. Sunday will stay cloudy, some sunshine early next week, and then another chance of snow late in the week. That does bear a little bit of watching. Storm will pass to our south. Sometimes they move a little farther north, and that could lead to more accumulations here, but that's still 10 days out.
It's good to have you back, Gary. The weather gets calm when you get back. You left in the middle of a storm. You came back in the middle of a storm.
I'm lucky I left and came back at all. The way my flights were, just right around the edges of the storm.
But you said when you landed, or when you got there, it was like, what, 70s?
It was 70 on Saturday and 73 on Sunday in Boston. They've only had the temperature above 70 4 times in their history in January. That 73 on Sunday was the warmest temperature ever for the month of January.
Imagine the conversation with all those
150 years of weather
records.
Yeah, 5,000 meteorologists.
Can't even imagine. That was a raging party, I'm sure. Gary, thank you. Straight ahead, a handful of Packers starters might be wearing different uniforms next season. Take you to Lambeau Field next.
News 3.
Amarion Nelson was diagnosed with a brain tumor when he was 7. Now 15, Nelson's had multiple surgeries, with another one scheduled for tomorrow. But the La Follette student had one more obligation before his next treatment: get up close and personal with the Bucks, getting the full VIP treatment, pizza at St. Kate, which is really good, hanging with his buddies, and eventually the team, they were a little late because they're making last-minute adjustments before leaving for a game in Paris tonight. And by the way, tickets to the Bucks afternoon game against the Bulls, courtesy of Madison's Wesley Matthews.
His mom, Pam, sent me a text saying we have 4 seats for you behind the Bucks bench, as well as a post-game pass.
Just being away, I take my mind off everything. I don't think about nothing but basketball. I just like basketball, like sports.
Absolutely. The Bucks going for a 7th straight win. The aforementioned Matthews had been struggling from the outside the past few weeks. Not today. Buries the 3. He had 13 points. Then Matthews feeds Giannis, who will dunk. 28 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists, 4th triple-double of the season. And it's Matthews again, putting the Bucks over 100. They've scored 169 straight games, 6 shy of tying the league record. They win 111-98. They're at 39-6. Well, there are 2 ways to look at it. Home teams are dominant in Big Ten play this season, and/or road teams can't figure it out. So the home teams are 41-7 in conference games this season, but the road teams being 7-41 sounds a little more juicy. The Badgers want to make that a 42-8 thing tomorrow when they host Nebraska. Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard said they're still tweaking their offense. He wants his team to get the ball in high percentage areas, and he wants more free throws. But at the end of the day, it's not really that complicated.
If you take care of the ball and make shots, you're going to be good offensively regardless of what you run or who you have on the floor. It's finding those combinations, and I like the group of 9. I mean, I think we've done some good things, and the challenge keeps coming each game to be better.
The Packers have a handful of starters set to become unrestricted free agents in March. Among them, offensive lineman Brian Bulaga, kicker Mason Crosby, and linebacker Blake Martinez. He's been at or among the league lead in tackles the past 3 seasons. The 26-year-old says he doesn't know about his future, but it's been an emotional ride, and whatever happens, he said this past season will be special.
It's crazy to think that this might be one of the last times I'm in here, but obviously I'd love to be back here, and I want to be back here, and I think for me it's just taking a week or 2 to relax and reflect on this amazing year that we did have. Obviously, crappy way to end, but at the end of it, I'll start refocusing on my eventual future.
15 years young, Coco Gauff beat one of her idols, 39-year-old Venus Williams, 7'6", 6'3", in the first round of the Australian Open. Yeah, she's 15. It was Williams' 20th Australian Open. Gauff beat her at last year's Wimbledon as well. If she wins her next match, Gauff would likely get reigning champion Naomi Osaka in the 3rd round. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! One more break and we're back.
Gary's here with a final check.
A little cold out there tonight, but there's not much of a breeze, so there's not a wind chill really to worry about. 8 right now in Madison, 10 in Janesville, already close to 0 well north of us, and look for temperatures to be back in the 30s after a cold day tomorrow, and they'll stay in the 30s all the way through next week.
Gary, thank you. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 10.
Do something good, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Now.